This is Mehmet Ozalp. I'm a professor of Islamic Studies at Isra Academy and Charles Sturt University. In this video, we will talk about why Assad regime in Syria collapsed in a matter of 2 weeks, and whether the new leadership is able to keep the country united and that the country is not going to lapse into another civil war. Well, nothing happens, with one factor or one reason. There's usually multiple reasons why historical events happen, particularly when it's to do with what happens in a country like Syria. Certainly what has happened is historic. The Assad regime, Hafiz al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad have ruled Syria for 54 years. An ending of that is a significant development both in Syria and for the region in the Middle East. So there were a number of factors that are internal to Syria and also external to Syria why regime collapsed all of a sudden. First one is that Assad regime has been weakened considerably since 2000 pandemic and the economic collapse that the country has gone through. The pandemic has affected Syria a lot, and the high inflation rates and the economic fall down, people were not happy with the Assad regime, even his supporters. Number two, Turkey and Russia signed an agreement called Astana Agreement in 2020, which basically froze the country in a stalemate, with the main rebel groups concentrating themselves in the northern province of Idlib. And in the last 4 or 5 years, they've been able to consolidate themselves. And it also appears that they really transformed their military from a horde of armed forces into a conventional army with really well-trained officer corps and a structure. And that's been really effective in the offensive. They have also transformed the government into, with ministers and the departments. So basically, they prepared themselves to rule Syria and become a serious and contender to rule the country. So that transformation was very important. And maybe we can add to that a third element, which was that all of the rebel groups have united themselves under a coalition. The biggest ones being obviously Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and Syrian National Army, which was supported by Turkey and United States. Added to these internal factors, obviously there's been significant developments in regional and geopolitical players that were concentrating around Syria. The regional players, the first one being Iran. Iran has been out of the Syrian conflict for a number of reasons. It's been under a lot of pressure from United States and Israel for its involvement and support of Hezbollah in Lebanon, which Israel sees as a threat and an enemy, and it's been fighting Hezbollah for a number of months. And people would say that they've defeated Hezbollah and they signed a new ceasefire. So Iran has been pushed out of Syria by its involvement with Hezbollah. Iran also lost its president in 2024. The leader of Hamas was killed in Iran as well. So Iran was not able to support financially or militarily Syria any longer. So their support have weakened considerably. Another key supporter of Syria was Russia. And Russia's support of Syria has been weakened over the years as well, mainly because of the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and it's become a bit of a quagmire for Russia. It's got stuck there. It expected the war to finish very quickly, but it didn't, sapping all of the resources of Russia, as well as its economic assets and the fighting force. So Russia pulled most of its forces out of Syria. One important detail is that Russia also had trouble with the Wagner group. The Wagner were this militia established by Russian the prisoners taken out of the prisons and turned into a fighting force. They were vicious and ruthless. And as we know, Wagner leader and Putin had a fallout, and Putin dismantled the Wagner group. So Wagner was pushed out of Syria for that reason. So Assad's main support, Iran is out of the equation, Russia is out of the equation, and the economy was really in bad shape. And on top of that, the rebels have united, strengthened themselves. There's other players, the Turkey. Turkey has been supporting both Syrian National Army and also the rebels are concentrated in the town of Idlib, which neighbors Turkey. So because of that, they've been getting a lot of support and supplies through the Turkish route. So Turkey has been involved in Syria because it has a major border with Syria, and Turkey sees as a threat that if there is a independent Kurdish state in northeastern Syria, this could possibly influence and encourage the Kurdish regions within Turkey, and that they would maybe fight for separating. They've been already doing that under PKK, which is designated as a terrorist group by Turkey and international governments. So it's in Turkey's interest that they are a player in the destiny of what happens in Syria. So they've been doing that since the civil war started. So that also leaves us United States. So United States has been in a limbo, especially after Trump was elected. So there's a caretaker period. And because Trump is elected, everyone knows that Trump was not interested in Syria. When he was the president, he pulled out of the forces in Syria and had very minimal involvement. So because of that, the rebel groups and Turkey felt this was the right time to make some gains in Syria, and that when Trump comes back as the president, he would actually accept whatever the result of that would be. And we now know that the whole regime have collapsed. And Trump tweeted saying that America has nothing to do with Syria, let it play out as it should be, and he will certainly accept the new leadership. This also leaves us with the European Union, or involvement of Europe in the conflict. One day before the rebel groups started the offensive, the General Secretary of NATO visited Turkey. We can assume that they've talked about this imminent offensive, and that somehow NATO gave the go-ahead, Turkey being part of NATO. And it's in the interest of Europe that in Syria there's a leadership that is not pro-Russian, and certainly the new leadership is not going to be pro-Russian. And the main reason for that is Europe depends on Russian oil and gas through the pipelines. And the Ukraine war showed that that dependency really was against the geopolitical interests of European countries. So they want an alternative pipeline that goes from Gulf through Syria, Turkey into Europe. And now they can achieve that. Now they can realize that. So these are the main reasons why it was possible for Assad regime to collapse in a matter of 2 weeks. They had no resistance. No one ran to help them. And a lot of the regional and international powers, it was in their interest for regime to change now. So all conditions came in place very rapidly for the success of the new leadership. And now Syria is a different country. This change will have a major impact in the region. Now, a lot of people think that this is going to be another case of, the rebels taking control or winning, toppling a government, and then it could lead to another civil war. Things can get worse for Syria. I disagree with that. Of course, there is always the possibility of that happening. We've seen that many times in Libya, in Afghanistan, and other places. But I think in the case of Syria, there are reasons for us to believe that there will be stability. And let me count those very quickly. The first one is that the new leaders, they seem to have changed their approach. They're more moderate and sophisticated. They're giving all the right messages. They're saying that they're not going to punish the supporters of the old regime, that they will respect religious and ethnic differences. They will be tolerant, basically. And they will work for reconciliation in the country of different groups being united under, one government and one flag. So they are making all the right moves and saying the right things, which really quells any form of resistance that may come their way. That was very important. Number two, if any resistance comes to this new leadership, it will come from any Assad supporters. And Assad is gone. He's already is completely left politics. He's completely out of Syria. And any remnants of ISIS are being hit by Israel and United States. So they're not allowing all these other groups to come out and destabilize the country. The group that made the coalition, if they were able to unite together in a very sophisticated way to launch the offensive, surely they can maintain that unity as well. And particularly the old regime government handed over the government it was televised and it was done in a very peaceful and orderly manner. And that's very important to have a seamless government transfer. And once they're control of the government, it's very difficult to destabilize that. In terms of Iran is not in a position to influence the outcome. Russia, we don't know how Russia will behave. They may want to collaborate with the new leadership, but new leadership is unlikely to work with them, given that they supported the Assad regime previously. So Russia is not in a position to change the conditions on the ground anytime soon. And we also know that the international community, European Union, America, are ready to accept the new leadership. And certainly Turkey will work very hard to support the new leadership and the new government for it to succeed, because it's in the interest of Turkey that they continue their support, which will make them a major player in the region. They hope that by being involved, they will prevent any Kurdish independent states in northeastern Syria. Also, the 3 million Syrian refugees in Turkey is a major socio-political issue in Turkey. They would want them to return back to Syria. So I expect that Syria will be stable and that it will rapidly transform itself, and there will be a rebuilding of the country in the foreseeable future. But this is just an analysis, and I've given my reasons why that's the case. You never know what could happen in any country. I want to finish off by expressing my sentiments for the people of Syria. They've suffered a lot. Hundreds and thousands of people were killed. 6 million people are refugees, or many more millions were displaced in the country. They've suffered enough under the old regime. We've seen the images of the prisoners, political prisoners in the country. So we pray and hope that the country can rebuild itself and Syria can be a very important contributor to the region. Thank you very much for listening to this video.